You've been performing your whole life and you never even knew it. Many men in this society today feel the need to perform. But what does performance actually look like? Because this is something that's been talked about a lot if you've been paying attention. Performance looks like you're trying to be someone you're not to get something that you feel like is going to make you feel better as a man. That's basically what performing is, you know? And a lot of us, and I include myself in this, can be performative, whether we know it or not, because we live on this planet called Earth, which is really a circus stage if you really think about it, especially in this society, especially if you're in the fucking West, you know? We've been programmed to perform. We've been programmed that if you are not being some type of way, if you're not showing your strength as a man, that you're not a man, whatever that means. You know what I mean? We have these expectations from society to be a certain type of way, and sometimes that doesn't even vibe with our spirit. It doesn't even vibe with who we are, you know? I came to the realization, maybe about a month or so, that a lot of what I was doing in my life was built on a faulty foundation. It was built on a foundation of performance. You see, a lot of men are performative. They feel the need to chase approval of other men, chase worthiness from women, which is why, the concept of, men in the society always banging women is a thing, is because they're trying to fulfill that hole, that hollowness that they have of they don't feel worthy of being loved. So what do? They chase as many women as they can possible, bring them down, take them down, so that way they could feel something. But just like a drug addict, it's a hit of relief and not an actual hit of wholeness, right? So most of us come from a very performative society, and when you get disillusioned to this, that you are never actually expressing who you are, but rather performing who you are, you find yourself in a very disillusioned state. And this is something that I'll be honest with you guys about. I find myself in, I found myself in a very, like, damn, I was performing more than I thought I was. I was hiding parts of myself that should be expressed, and really you hide yourself, you hide parts of you because you're not sure that you could be received, or you're projecting old traumas and old wounds onto people, and you don't allow yourself to be received, which holds you back in not only one aspect of your life, but all aspects of your life. However you do one thing is how you do all things. If you're consistently holding yourself back in one area of life, whether it be socially, whether it be physically, whether it be mentally, spiritually, you're going to hold yourself in all areas of life, which is why we have the concept of limiting beliefs. Nothing in this life cannot be attained. Nothing in this life cannot be attained. But the foundation of how you do things does matter, because you can either live a life full of pressure and constant tension and uneasiness, or peace, truth, and contentment, which is the greatest gain of all. If you know the scriptures, you know that that is a thing. We live in a very performative society, and I keep saying this, women perform for us. Women feel the need to, overly sexualize themselves so they can actually get a man. And we'll have men say, oh, well, women, they dress like this and they dress like that. Why, bro? Why do you think that is? On this channel, I'm not about blaming women. I'm not about blaming other people or circumstances or society. I bring out the truth, and then I let y'all see it, and then I say, how can we blame ourselves and rewire ourselves? Because that's the only one and the only thing we can change. And even then, a lot of us have trouble doing that, okay? We, as men, have created and allowed this dynamic from society that we must be very performative. And when you're performative, this affects everything in life. You step into the spotlight, you step into a position of authority, of leadership, and now you feel like you have to always be on. And you know what this is. It's a constant pressure. It's a voice inside your head that tells you, you're still not good enough. You're still not enough. Yeah, you got the money. Yeah, you got men following you. Maybe you're competent. Maybe you're a manager. Maybe you're a top sales rep, you know, but you still don't quite feel like that guy. You still feel like there's a gap between who you know you are and how you're actually showing up, right? And that comes from you not being honest with yourself and hiding parts of you, suppressing parts of you, suppressing emotions, suppressing trauma, suppressing wounds, being attached to, traumas that are holding you and keeping you stuck in life, right? Some of you, may be stuck attracting certain women like I was. I definitely was. I was attracting women that I didn't necessarily like, but then when I began to be honest with myself, I was attracting wounded women because I was a wounded man. A man that wanted to be seen, a man that wanted authenticity, that wanted depth quickly. And I noticed, I'll be like, why the fuck do I keep attracting this woman? And life is very spiritual. I would attract these women no matter where I went. It did not matter where I was approaching, because I'm big on approaching in this channel. It did not matter. That lets you know that, the scriptures, they say the desires of your heart are given to you when you delight in the Lord. And I'm paraphrasing. Your heart, really your emotions, the seat of your emotions, that's what the Lord will give to you when you delight in Him. But what I began to realize is that I was attracting women, attracting people into my life that were wounded because I myself was wounded. But it took a lot of reflection, it took a lot of stillness to actually, know that. So, what else was I attracting? People that were performative, people that will hold back, people that wouldn't, be 100% honest with themselves. You know what I mean? So I had to get honest with myself. I had to start that change within, so now I could start broadcasting a different frequency. Instead of a performative frequency, pretending to be something that I'm not, which is not conscious, guys. This is not a conscious thing. This is subconscious. And it'll look like, you not saying what you want to say, you shrinking up in rooms, you justifying why you're not saying certain things. You may get disrespected by someone and you may say, oh, well, they didn't mean it like that. Damn well knowing that they meant it like that. Just taking disrespect, and you may justify it. You may negotiate. Anytime you're negotiating, it's because there's two parts of you fighting. Like, let's be for real, you know? But you're never really honest with yourself to really say what part of me needs to be exposed so I can move in alignment rather than a negotiation, rather than internal war. Because negotiation, you only negotiate with the terrorist. And unless you're a terrorist, unless you're a terror to yourself, you should not be negotiating with yourself, okay? That means a part of you must be cut out. Your story must be rewritten. You see, men was given men were given eyes to see, to perceive, to have their own perspectives. And that's why, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Really, reality is in the eye of the beholder, because whatever you see, whatever you project internally will be your reality, will be what you create out in front of you. We are all creators. We are all a reflection of the Most High. So we create. Whatever you tell yourself will become true. So whatever you think about yourself will become true. And your mind, just like your eyes project, will look for whatever it is that you're looking for in your life. So if you look at, life with the glass half empty, you're gonna find situations half empty. If you look at it life with the glass half full, you're gonna find life with the glass half full. This is reality. This is how we program our mind. This is how our subconscious works, right? And back to the performativeness, you have to really look within and begin with yourself and say, where am I holding myself back? Where am I pretending to be someone I'm not? And be completely honest with yourself. You see, this is why I hearken on cold approaching so much, because cold approaching, really the woman is a mirror of who you are. So some of you may not actually like your women, you may not actually like who your woman actually is, but rather what she represents about you. And that's a fucked up way to think, but it is true. We are attracted to people that are like us because we see ourselves in them, okay? So when you look at your woman and you say, man, my woman is negative, my woman is this, you have to ask yourself, is that not how you think? Is that not what your nervous system carries? Are those not the wounds that you've dealt with before? You know, if you find your woman being lazy, you know, not ambitious, and you know, things like that, because I've dealt with men that say that about their woman. Their woman is not, you know, as initiative, you know, as a go-getter as they want them to be, especially if you're ambitious and competent. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. um, Ask yourself first, am I even putting in the time in her into her to be able to build her up to that? Because if I'm not, that lets you know I'm not even leading myself correctly. If I can't lead my woman, that certainly shows I'm not leading myself the best way I should be. Because your woman, and really anybody around you, is gonna feel the pressure of your leadership, because you're gonna naturally raise the standard. You won't even have to tell them anything. Just you going out there and doing what you say is gonna naturally raise the room. And you see many men perform because they don't really feel like they actually lead the way they're supposed to. They don't actually feel like they're embodying the man that they know themselves to be. So instead of being that guy, really being permission to be an authority, a leader, you know, feeling that way really, which is what a lot of us chase, you know, feeling like that guy. They chase that guy through accomplishments in the world, through, you know, being bold with women, or being an authoritative figure, a boss or entrepreneur or whatever. But really, I always say, and I harken on this channel, it's not the entrepreneur that makes the man, or the business that makes the man, the woman that makes the man. It's the man. You know, what I really like to say, it's not the money that makes the man, but it's the man that makes the money. We create all these things. So when we find ourselves performing for this stage, this circus stage of a world, you have to ask ourselves, why? Why do we feel the need to perform? Anything you perform, anything that you're putting on an act, is not sustainable. So some of you may have even reached the mountaintop, the lifestyle that you've been building, like I have, and still felt like a fraud, still dealt with imposter syndrome, still feel like, yeah, I have everything I want, but I still don't quite feel like myself. I still don't feel like, I lived up to everything I said I would. You know why? It's because you've been performing who you are rather than being who you are. When you perform, you find yourself drained. You feel yourself on edge. You feel yourself constantly filled with pressure. Expression is just something you do naturally. It's like when you take a shit, you don't think twice about it. But if you're going into rooms, talking and leading rooms, and you're already, oh fuck, what do I say? What is that guy gonna think? What is she gonna think? Ah, fuck. And then you go back, to other rooms, and you start shrink up. Yeah, you're performing, and you're being performative. We as men, we never realize how performative we've actually been programmed to be, until we actually sit down and be honest with ourselves. Which is why, I've hearkened on this channel, or I've touched on this channel before, that men that are scared that artificial intelligence is gonna take over are the most performative men, because real ass dudes like myself and other real ass dudes that watch my channel, you know who you are. You don't have nothing to worry about, because no matter what, artificial intelligence cannot replace the spirit and the soul that we carry as a man. And AI cannot recreate the same conviction that I've been given. It cannot do it. It cannot recreate the same presence that I bring to a room. I don't give a fuck how much knowledge it could give you. You cannot recreate who I am, and I cannot recreate who you are. So ask yourself, why do I still feel the need to be something that I'm not? Why do I still feel the need to perform who I am rather than being who I am? It all starts with permission. It all starts with you saying, why the fuck am I wasting so much energy trying to be something that I'm not, or trying to be something, or even worse, trying to be something that I already am? The truth and the reality is, you just haven't accepted who you are, because acceptance requires you to stop chasing, it requires you to stop performing, and it requires you to let go of the pressure and all the traumas and the stories that you feel like you need to be who you are. It requires you to let go of chaos and tension, and it requires you to accept truth into your life, which is a lot more freeing and liberal, but it's a lot more boring. Let's call it what it is. It's a lot less intense. It's a lot less chaotic. But peace, truth, contentment, it's going to take you a lot farther in life, instead of you staying stuck in the same cycles over and over and over again, or even worse, getting everything you ever wanted and still feeling like a fraud, still feeling like less of the man that you actually know yourself to be.